Maybe you might be feeling one of the following. Maybe you're feeling overwhelmed with the news and what's going on globally all around the world. Maybe you might be frustrated by not getting that promotion at your job that you've always wanted to get. Or maybe you might be feeling stressed with the different goals you're trying to work on, especially academic-wise, and only to find yourself you're just making a small little dent no matter how hard you tried. Even with all of this, we are all feeling emotions one way or another, no matter what it is we are expressing or even feeling the inside. For myself, normally I struggle finding this kind of peace and state of mind when it comes to stress. I know one of those things that I'm pretty guilty on when it comes to being anxious is actually my time management, like especially when I try to get to my job on time. I also get anxious when it comes to wondering what do people see me as, and I get these kind of questions in my head thinking, am I doing enough? Do I look like I'm being productive? Or what do people really see in me? And especially I get anxious a lot when it comes to doing to-do lists and trying to see how much I can try to catch up and do, only to find myself adding more onto the to-do list and never really getting to an end on that. I'm also the type of person who is constantly looking at my planner here, which, let me grab that for you guys. See this? Yeah, this is a physical planner right here. I got a bunch of stuff that I always try to write down and look through like crazy. For instance, this is my month of January, like all filled up, all that kind of fun stuff here that, have a lot of different things that I'm trying to remember and all that fun stuff. And again, this I try to keep physically around me to not only plan around like what kind of jobs I might be working on particularly for that day, since I work at 2 part-time jobs, my mentor Ahmed here, to my friends, with the time with my family, church, and all that fun stuff really. And even when I try to like create different ways, even on my phone here, with actually remembering to do my goals and stuff like that, I honestly can't help but really when I try to do all of this at the end of the day, I put my own needs last, and I'm somebody very guilty of doing that because of how I want to make sure other people are doing well. And then once everyone else is all good, then that's when I start looking at myself and be like, okay, now I can kind of see what could I do to really find that peace and rest for myself, if that makes sense. And because of that, that's where a lot of the times my passions I put in the back burner and don't even do right away until I do everything else first for everyone else. And realistically, I know this is one of those things that people would say, oh, you gotta put your own needs first, do self-care and all that stuff. But the part of me that wants to like help other people so badly, it's really a hard struggle for me, especially to not to make sure everyone else is doing good, and then I could try to have that time for myself. And even though honestly it's really hard for someone like me to take time to do self-care for myself, and maybe whoever's watching this as well, you can relate to, there was an insightful game that I came up with that I think is a really good game changer, especially for anyone else who struggles to find that inner peace within themselves, and it's something that I want to share to you guys. But first, before going into what this game is, I want to first describe what it is about self-care that we both need to understand what it means, even myself too, when I'm saying this here. Because really, the only way we could find peace, at least one of the biggest ways I should say, because hello, biggest way right there, but like one of the biggest ways we could find peace that we hear all the time is self-care. And I don't know about you, but for someone like me, whenever I hear the word self-care, it's one of those things that I hear, oh yeah, okay, I'll take time to do that and stuff like that. It goes one ear out and then it goes one ear in and then goes out the other ear basically whenever I hear that. I think, oh yeah, sure, I'll do that and stuff like that. Once I finish everyone else and helping everyone else and stuff like that, then that's when I'll start looking into this whole self-care thing. However, thinking and doing, I know, are 2 separate things. And personally, I am very guilty of not being the type of person to put things into action just because I'm thinking it, and that's one of the things I really want to work on more this year. With that in mind now, what I want to share and recommend you guys to do, especially if you want to follow along this game plan that I'm about to share with you guys, is to take time for a moment to write on a piece of paper or write on your phone or wherever you feel is best, and write down a bunch of things of what really makes you happy, and take that time to really do that self-reflection for yourself. And if you guys need like personal examples of what this could be, of what really could be considered self-care, some of the things that I personally have written down for my list would include things like playing an instrument, listening to a sermon online, listening to music that you had growing up, especially like childhood nostalgia kind of songs, taking time to build relationships with family or friends, and even your pets too, because why not, and so much more. And after that, wherever you wrote this list down, which again, if you wrote this down physically on a piece of paper, I would then convert that on paper into digital onto your computer for a second, especially like if you have an Apple computer like me, put it on your phone notes within that, or if you have an Android or whatever computer you use, put it somewhere that's on a note place. And even if it's not a note place, you can even create a Google document that's easier. And once you do that, you're gonna actually want to type in the following website that I'm gonna put right below the screen here, which is wheelofnames.com. This website is free, and again, not sponsored, so I promise you it's not a sponsored thing. But this website, of course, is very easy and free to use for anyone, and literally anyone can do it at all ages for this kind of game. Basically, how the game goes is that you're gonna see a big wheel of like a template example of a bunch of different names and stuff like that. Once you see all that, erase all of the stuff that you see on the screen and then start typing in your own personalized list of the things that you wrote down is considered self-care and helpful that you want to do, and even if it's passionate things that you want to work on as well. And even if you need to take time to go back to this list and stuff like that, feel free to do so. It's because a lot of times that's what I ended up doing, is that I found myself adding more to the list after the list was already created on this website from the Wheel of Names. But at the end of the day though, as long as you have it saved somewhere, then you're all good. You're gonna see a box that clicks on spin the wheel, or you're gonna basically click run the wheel there and it's gonna automatically spin for you. Whatever the activity lands on is gonna be the activity that you consider, yeah, I'll do that as my self-care. But the main point of doing all this, by the way, is that when you spin the wheel of the self-care, instead of actually figuring out what am I gonna do for self-care, or am I really gonna take time to do self-care, it's actually just gonna force you in a way to see like, okay, this is what I'm going to do for my self-care, and I'm going to do it right away and stuff like that. Because the point is that when you do this website, you want to do the self-care right away and make sure you give yourself that time to properly give yourself that hour to yourself or whatever time you need. Not only will you take off that pressure on yourself, I guess you can say, but it's going to give you different things that, hey, this is what you're going to do. Instead of you figuring out what to do for your self-care, it's going to give you those ideas, and all you have to do is just apply whatever it is the wheel lands on. And you repeat basically once a day, and every single day, one time of doing the wheel, and you can either erase off the wheel whenever the task is completed, so you can do something different each time, or you can keep it on there, of course, and whatever the wheel lands on is whatever wheel lands on. Now, per person, this will of course vary on how often you want to work on doing self-care for yourself. But for myself, I know this is something that I'm trying to like take baby steps doing, honestly, like a little baby step way up to working on trying to do the self-care more in my life. And this is something that I'm trying to work on doing just once a week. And by doing it weekly this way, at least I'm actually giving myself some time during the week to look forward to than no time at all for myself. And again, this is not only applies for someone like myself or for you who's watching who might relate to this video as well, that struggles to rest or find that peace, but honestly, whatever you can do to help bring that inner peace for yourself, it basically gives you different ways on how you can rest differently. And by doing the different activities all the time, it's going to give you a different variety of ways you can actually have peace instead of doing the same thing over and over again that might be considered peace or might not really be really peaceful at the end of the day. And as long as you give yourself that flexibility to really do a lot of different things, it makes your days actually enjoyable, really. That's why I suggest for you guys, if you want to go pretty ambitious, do a daily, but if you want to do a weekly like me, that's all fine by me too. But really, it also could be one way to figure out what you want to do with family too, or friends. If you ever need something to figure out, okay, what could I do differently just to hang out with my friends or family, feel free to use that wheel for that customized needs as well, so that you guys can have different ways of spending quality time together, and especially for yourself. Overall, I will say that if you have moments where this game, for instance, or anything you try to do at the end of the day that brings peace for yourself, if you find yourself putting it in the back burner, it's okay if you have moments where you're not always consistent. But the main important part that I want to highlight here is that you want to remember that, hey, self-care is something that is needed for every single one of us, even myself included. As hard as that is to say, I want to give that as encouragement for you too, especially if you struggle with finding that peace and self-care and doing that for yourself. Everyone deserves it, and it's better off not letting any more days, weeks, months, or years go by without really taking time to take that proper care for yourself. This was the mistake that I personally have done for years now, and this is something that I really am still struggling to try to work on, but I really hope that by really making it such an important thing to remember to keep looking at, hey, do self-care, and not just be an idea but actually really applying it, I want to be able to apply this a lot more in my life, truly. As long as at the end of the day that for you and for myself, which I don't know why I did that backwards, but hey, but for you and for myself, as long as we are putting that into it full attention, that hey, this is something we need to do and not neglect and not give up, especially if you're struggling to find this peace, as long as you don't give up, that's where the strength will come in to truly fight for yourself and fight for that happiness that you deserve to have. And this is something that I'm trying to say to myself as well too. too. I hope this cool technique helps you that I came up with, and if this does help you, leaving a like, comment, and subscribe would definitely be very appreciated for this channel. In fact, if you actually make a video about it, feel free to give me a shout out, unless if you know anyone else has done this. I have never seen anything like this made before, but hey, a shout out would be really cool though. Thank you so much for watching as always, and I look forward to seeing you guys again in the next video. Take care and God bless.